Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the delay. Monsters Not Running from the DMG, Info, and Nerdarchry. Morale question. And yeah, I have to agree, that's a really damn good question. And yes, you need a 15-page factory, right? Yeah, just kidding. I understand that. Just me personally, as a novice DM, I like a little backstory. Makes it a little easier for me in the long term, and helps me in future games to see other points of views and ideas. But this is one of the reasons why I look at older editions to help me with my games. I agree that putting more morale back in the game is probably one of the better things to do. But you did ask what creatures would not need it, and first, pretty much I would argue those who worship the death, like a death cult. I'd argue that they don't fear death, they don't see death in the same way. Berserkers are another one. And someone who's berserking in the middle of combat, I would say, would not be one of those that would be taking morale seriously. If you're berserking, functionality and rationality will go out the window. The reason why if you see on the left side of my page, Dark Heresy and Deathwatch, you got Frenzy, you got all these other stats, and this is one of the other reasons why I look at other systems. Some of these tactics and ideas and learning from other systems really does help out with my D&D game. And or what I've done with some of my villain characters, I've given them, don't let my players see this video, 8th level necromancy spell cast on them. Clone. For me, I 100% agree that having the enemy throw themselves at a party is just dumb. And pretty much like fiends and demons and angels may possibly be one of the other ones that I would argue that morale would not be working the same way. When it comes down to demons and angels, they're from a different plane of existence. That when, arguably, if they're on the material realm and you quote-unquote kill them on this realm, they are sent back to original realm, so they don't have to fear. Also, demons, fiends, and angels look at morality and look at the world in a very different perspective, a very alien perspective to those who are living on the material plane. So the idea of their death in the situation most likely will not be seen in kind of taken in the same manner. They may be thinking, if I die here, I can destroy this evil, monstrous group, if you have an evil campaign, and remove enough of them from the threat for doing good. It's the fact of the matter is they know they're not going to die. And the idea is, I'll just be summoned back, or my god will send me down when I'm right again. Or if you're a fiend and you're fighting good players, I will pull them down to the evil plane with me as I go, or do something like that to pretty much twist them or taint them or harm them. It's one of the other reasons why when I do this, I look at the mentality of the characters and the villains that they're going against. Pretty much, it's more or less a perspective thing. And as I was saying before, the realms and all this stuff. The important thing to understand the creatures and how they think. As I said, a goblin and kobold would be easier to break and scare and make them run. Though things like dragons would retreat, but I would argue would not run. And I think for me, that's the important distinction. For me, I do give my enemies their own reasoning, their own whys to fight. Like a half-blue dragon, giving them a personality that if challenged or insulted, they become prideful and reckless. I look at the lore behind these creatures to kind of give them their limit of breaking. I had one scene earlier in my campaign. My favorite scene so far of my campaign is being a DM. They were trying to cut down some goblins, as you see in the image below. I had them break. There's no morale roll, but all their team got slaughtered in one round, and I had this thing running around, and I literally had the whole team trying to capture him, trying to take him down, trying to stop him. It was one of the things that one of the players got frustrated with, but everyone loved it because it was this whole scene of, oh my god, one last thing, it's trying to retreat. And that's kind of what I like. Now, one of the other things I would argue is clockwork creatures may be another one that morale would not actually properly connect to or attach to. The reason why is clockworks are not really living entities or possessed creatures or spirit encased in actual armor. And it comes down to me on this idea is that they themselves, there's no feelings, there's no death, there's none of this, and that it's only following orders and directives. Where one of the clockwork pieces that don't tell my players what's going to be later in the game, hopefully, is that these clockwork pieces that if they're in trouble of being destroyed, get out of there as soon as possible. And as you hear when the players are dying out there. But this is where I come down to it when it comes down to these players and these actions, is that it is very much very important to know the limits of these creatures. As I said, Clockworks, I would argue, would be one of those that would not be running, though you could put directives. Without the moral dice rolls, what I have done is I've made my own version of it. If I think it's smart for a creature to run or retreat, I make it retreat. Because why not? It would make sense. I try to fall into some logical thing. This is why I do agree. Bring morale back into gaming. Bring morale back into D&D. And I think the missing of morale is a big detriment and takes away from players' options in dealing with the enemies. And that's my most important thing. For me, it's not a problem because I do try to implement some type of morality system, type of fear going in through them. Though I do think it is a very big detriment. And this complexity of adding morale, I think, is the best thing to be done. The reason why I think it's the best thing to be done, as I said before, it gives you another option of dealing with things. It's one of my biggest reasons why, during one of the fights, they took out the head commanding officer. The enemies started to run because it wasn't like equal ranks where they could keep order. It was head honcho with nobodies below him, serving him. Yeah, they're going to scatter like cockroaches. As I said again, morale is a very good system, should be brought back. Sadly, it's not in this system, but I do my best way to find a way to put it in there. And as always, thank you for listening. Please tell me what you think. And if you always want a better game, you want to make your systems better, you want to make your games better, look to previous editions, earlier editions, and different editions for your ideas. Thank you, and good night.